guys, it's Riley from NV Auto here. Today we are going to talk about tandem drifting and tandem drift etiquette. What should people know first time? I guess for one, make sure you're comfortable with the course. I wouldn't go tandem with your buddies on a layout you're not familiar with, or either way, I would start by probably staying at the back of the pack. I don't know if it's just you and one person, you and a train. I probably maybe not get involved in a train right away, but ideally following someone is probably better. You can get used to adapting to someone else's driving style. I find the hardest thing with tandeming is that you may have to drive how you are not comfortable driving the course. That's always the biggest challenge for me. Like, everyone kind of has a certain way that they like to navigate the course, and if you're following somebody, they may not do the same things that you want to do. So I would say to start, follow, give a good gap. You don't need to be on everyone's door right away. That just comes with time. I would say, as far as setup is concerned, if you're going to tandem a lot, having the car a little loose, easy to make corrections with. If the car is really tight and grips up all the time when you're off throttle, it makes it very, very difficult to adjust your line or slow down or make an adjustment at the last moment without the car getting all out of control. So you kind of want like a loose, floaty setup, more tire pressure. Like, following someone, you're not going to be going as fast as you would be in the front anyways, so you want it very controllable. Not too loose to where you're always going to spin, but just kind of take the edge off of it, just to help keep the car at angle. If you have to scrub some speed, you don't straighten out. Just basically, you just want it easy to control and manipulate. That would probably be wise. I never do that. I just jump in and follow somebody and hope it works out. But maybe letting someone know, first of all, that you're going to be chasing them, just so they're aware. One thing, if you are going to be leading a tandem run, you really have to be mindful that someone's behind you. So if something's going to happen, you can't really make a sudden stop. If you're going to spin, make sure that you spin off the track and away from everybody, because the worst thing is when you're like 4 cars back in a train and the front guy spins, and all of a sudden you got 3 cars in front of you slamming on the brakes unexpectedly, and everyone just piles into each other. So definitely want to communicate kind of the plan. If you're not going to drift a certain corner, be like, hey, you know, I'm skipping this one so I can do this section. You just really want to make sure that whoever's behind you knows what's going on. Same if you're following someone, as long as the person you're following knows that you're going to be following them, just so they can be prepared that they don't get a surprise car to the driver's door or the face when they spin out. Yeah, I guess a general rule of thumb is like, you just put the number that you're going to be out the window, leading, following, you know, like however many cars are in this train. It could change depending on who's running the event. They may do a different thing. They just want the first and the last. I don't know. For everywhere I've always been, you basically just say, you know, are there just 2 cars going, or are there 3? Everyone in their line. I guess if you're like car 20, you don't have enough fingers, so just, I don't know, wave, whatever. I use the kind of the rear quarter, or maybe the door, like the second part of the door, like the second half of the door, as like a good target to aim for all the time, because that kind of puts you where you need to be. It really depends. You really just want to watch for them to spin and like make sure they're not locking up or crashing into anything. But 3/4 of the way down the car basically is what I aim for, and just kind of use as a reference. And then you just have to make sure, depending how close you are, that you give space for transitions and things like that. And then you kind of have to balance it. Like, you got to watch the car, but you also have to watch to make sure that they're not going off track. For instance, if there's a barrier or a big like dirt drop or something, you want to make sure that if they're going to hit it or come close to it, that you give yourself enough room as well, because it's easy to just get locked into following that car and you kind of lose sight of your surroundings. Nope. When I'm out front, I don't care about anything behind me. I'm just driving my own line, and the only thing I have in my mind is if I'm going to spin, to make sure I get out of the way. But I don't change any single thing I ever do with my driving. I drive out front as if I was by myself on the track. So, because if you try and cater to everyone else behind you and overload your mind with stuff, you end up driving like garbage. So I just pay attention to what I'm doing, drive the best I can, and just keep in the back of my mind, hey, if you're gonna spin, just make sure you get out of the way, or try to make sure that you don't make any sudden kind of unexpected movements. Like, the last thing you want to do is think you're gonna spin and just like jam on the brakes and stop when you have 5 cars behind you, because everyone's just gonna smash into you. But being smooth and being focused on what you're doing is probably the most important thing. Yeah, I use a handbrake. When I drive normally, I try not to use a handbrake very much. I just try and maintain momentum. But when you're chasing, you have to use a handbrake a lot, because there's a lot of times when you need to, you either catch up. For instance, let's say you let someone transition and then you get a bit of a gap, you want to close it up, but then they start to slow down. You have to brake and handbrake at the same time to make sure that you don't run into them. But that is one tool that you need a lot. It's really hard to chase tandem without a handbrake. I've tried it. You just have to leave a big gap, and you basically just run your own line kind of behind them. But the handbrake makes it much, much easier to be able to mimic what they're doing, because you can constantly like close the gap and then back off if you have to, and hold the car sideways a little longer. I use the handbrake much, much, much more when I'm tandeming. Same with left foot braking. That's something I use pretty regularly, but much more so when you're following someone, because you can maintain your angle, but then use the brakes a little bit with your left foot to just scrub speed, so that you can keep on throttle, keep the car sideways, but you're not like accelerating into them. You just kind of hold the car back. Yeah, sometimes if you get behind someone with a really laggy car, like if you were driving a V8 car, following a turbocharged car, sometimes you have to kind of anticipate that when they transition and get on the throttle, the car's not going to be instantly taking off. Like, it takes a second to get everything kind of spooled up and going. Same with, like, depending on the layout, after the initial initiation, or if you were in like a competitive setting where you're leaving the line together, a lot of times you have to give a little room for the turbo car to kind of get up to speed. Whereas if you're in a turbocharged car chasing a V8 car, I do this all the time, where you have to like basically jump the line, because as soon as they get on the throttle, they're gone. Whereas you kind of have to allow for the spool time. So a lot of times I'll end up like launching the car super hard, almost a little earlier than they're ready to go, so that I can hang with them without getting pulled away from them. That's really only a competitive setting. When you're tandeming with your boys, like, you shouldn't be trying to outrun the whole pack. Like, you're not gonna win anything. It's more about trying to keep it tight and have good style. But in a competitive setting, like, making sure that you manipulate your driving style to be able to keep pace with the car in front of you. First thing to do, if you can, is get the cars off the track, just off the racing line, like just get out of the way, so that you don't have people barreling around the corner and smashing into you, if they'll still move. If you hit them hard enough and the car doesn't move, well, you've done something pretty wrong. But for me, I usually, like, track marshals and track staff usually tell you not to get out of the car unless it's on fire. So a lot of people, the habit they get into is they hit someone else and they want to get out and look at their car to make sure it's okay. The problem is, you really shouldn't get out of the car on a hot track, unless it's on fire, obviously. But if it's if you just like spin, you clap into each other, get the cars moving. If they still drive, probably drive off the track, off of the track in the grass if possible, or off the line in case you know, like, they punctured like a coolant overflow reservoir or something, so you're not like dumping slippery fluid all over the track. I don't know, I've hit people or been hit by people a bunch of times, and I usually just wait for a second, give the car one of these, and if it still drives, just initiate the next corner. I'm not super responsible when it comes to that stuff, but realistically, you should probably go back to the pit, check everything over, make sure nothing's broken or bent, nothing's leaking, nothing's coming loose. The last thing you want is to hit someone, have someone hit you, and you just like initiate right back into drift, and all of a sudden like an oil line falls off and your car catches on fire, or you just like dump coolant all over the track and then ruin it for everybody else. So it depends. Obviously, if you just spin and like tap doors, it's not a big deal. But if you've like hit major components together, or the car doesn't feel right, get off the race line, get off the side of the track, get back to the pit, check it out. There. FD Atlanta with Literal. That's my best tandem ever. Like, I don't even know where that came from. I've never driven that good ever since that day, ever, in a tandem run. That was my best one, probably will be my best ever tandem run. That was great. It was just like, we were bumping and banging doors, both super aggressive, like right from the get-go. I initiated, and did I lead or chase first? I can't remember either. Anyways, basically right off the initiation, we like banged the cars together. I waited to see if everything was good. We're both still going, and that's how it was for both runs. And oh no, I led first, that's right. Because when I followed him on the second run, I spun into the wall. Right?
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
I did.
Right.
Yeah, because his car caught on fire. His tire caught on fire on the way back. So anyway, on the lead, I initiated, he banged into my door. I looked behind in the mirror, he's still going, I'm still going. And then from there, it was just like, that was the best tandem run I've ever. And then in the chase, I was just able to keep it on his car the whole time, which is, for me, pretty good, because I usually can't do that very well. So I think that's probably my best tandem run ever. So yeah, thanks for coming along on our tandem adventure today. I don't know if my advice is any good. Take it with a grain of salt. That's just my own personal preferences for things. I mean, it's not set in stone by any stretch, but I've survived this long with tandeming without too many major incidents, so it's probably good rules of thumb. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. If you want to see the vlog from that tandem adventure in Atlanta a couple years ago, you know, check out the video up here. I don't know what other videos you have. There is a video that I love.
Hang on.
And it's, I don't know if you can link to it because it's not one of our videos. Can you still link it? Oh yeah, it's a video of the song that's in SpongeBob called 12th Street Rag, and there's a dog in a boat and his little ears are flapping in the wind. It's like 6 seconds of your time, but it's worth the watch. Check that one out.